earlier question sets, we have already discussed the scenario regarding to these question sets. So, from this question set 23, we are here to discuss about these questions. So, for first question, what is the lowest mark obtained for singular subject in the first term? For this task, we are using ADSQL. So, in this first question, they say to find the lowest mark obtained for singular subject in the first term. For this task, we are using the function minimum. So we have said here to find the minimum mark from the student exam mark record. And we have created relationships between the subject table, exam term table with our student exam mark record table using inner join, relating the column subject ID of the student mark exam record and the subject ID of subject. And the same goes for the exam term. And finally, we have given our condition here, saying that the lowest mark we needed is for the subject singular and the term as first name. So when executing this, we get the result as 75. The second question says find all the details of the student who got the lowest marks in the first term singular subject. The second question is quite complex. They say find all the details of the student who got the lowest marks in the first term singular subject. To take all the details of the student, we say select all from student and we have created two subqueries in this. Let's start from the latter subquery where we have said select the minimum mark from the student exam mark record and where we have inner join the subject table and exam term table using the relationships between the columns, and we have given the condition that we need the minimum mark from the subject singular language and literature and which term name is first term. And after finding the minimum mark, we have said that we need the minimum mark of the subject singular language and literature, and we said that we need the index number from it. And finally, we have said that this index number is equal to the index number we found, and we say give the details of the student. So here are the details of the student who got the lowest marks in the first term singular subject. The third question says, what is the lowest mark obtained in the second term science subject? The third question says find the lowest mark obtained in the second term science subject. So we have said to find the minimum mark using the function minimum. And we have inner joined the subject and exam term to the student exam mark record using the column names which have relationships with them, like the relationship between the subject ID and the subject ID of student exam mark record and the subject table. And finally, we have given the condition as the subject name as science and the term name as second term. So after executing this, we get the minimum mark as 45.52. The fourth question says, what is the minimum mark obtained for the subject of mathematics in term examination held on 10th of July 2020? For the fourth question, I made a slight adjustment in our previous query. They say to find the minimum mark obtained for the subject mathematics. So we have given the condition as we need the subject name as mathematics and the exam date and the exam date at this. So we have earlier created the relationship between the student exam mark record and the exam term using inner join. So by using the minimum function, we get the minimum mark as 44.12. The fifth question says find all the details of the student who obtained the minimum mark obtained for the subject of mathematics in the term examination held on 10th of July 2020. The fifth question says find all the details of the student. Obtain minimum mark for the subject of mathematics in the term examination held on this date. For this task we have used two subqueries. For the last subquery we have used is to find the minimum mark. To find the minimum mark, we have inner joined the subject and exam term to the student exam mark record. For the subject and the student exam mark record, we have used the relationship between the subject ID of student exam mark record and the subject ID of the subject table. And the similar goes for the exam term. And finally, we have given the condition that we want the minimum mark of subject name mathematics and the exam date of 10th of July 2020. And after finding the minimum mark in our previous subset, we have said that we need the minimum mark of this student index number. We need the student index number from the minimum mark that we obtained. And finally, we have said that we need all the data from the student whose index number is equal to the student index number that we found earlier. So by executing this, we get the details of the student Sandun Vijayaratna who got the minimum marks for the subject of mathematics in the term examination held on 10th of July 2020. From this question set, we discuss about how we use the minimum function and the subsets to find the minimum marks.